You are listening to The Hero's Journey. I'm Dan Zarzana.
And I'm Jeff Garvin.
Let the journey begin. Mr. Garvin, welcome to Recall. I understand you are interested in one of our memory implant treatments.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's safe. I heard that people are getting lobotomized.
Mr. Garvin, you can't believe everything you read on the World Wide Web.
I don't think people call it that
I
anymore.
assure you our procedures are absolutely safe. And when we're done, the memory you select for implantation will be 100% real to you in every way.
All right.
We've taken a look at your history and have pre-selected some options that we think will be of interest to you. So
Okay.
How about one of these? A successful actor with more than one line in a 25-year-old television show? A musician with an actual record deal?
Ow. No, I want to be a podcaster.
That's a popular one. Seems like everyone's getting that one these days.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Garvin, have a seat in the implant chair, and while the technicians hook you up,
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a few questions. Now,
All right.
what type of show would you like to host? One with broad appeal, hundreds of thousands of adoring fans like a true crime podcast, or a little boutique program that appeals to a niche audience?
Definitely niche. I want to do a show where I talk about novels and films, but like in a really, really specific way, like through the paradigm of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Huh. That's certainly niche.
Yeah.
At least you'll get to use words like erudite, esoteric.
Yeah.
Sound a lot smarter than you really are. It's too bad nobody will hear it. Are you sure you wouldn't prefer like an exciting trip to Mars as a secret agent?
Nope. Hero's journey. Most certainly.
Whatever you say. Now let's choose a co-host. Remember, answer honestly, and you'll enjoy yourself a whole lot more. Male or female?
I mean, I'd prefer female, but I guess male.
Maybe one who doesn't talk too much so you can tell long-winded stories about yourself that are of little interest to anyone else.
Sounds great.
Okay, hair color. Blonde, brown, redhead.
How about it was once brown, but now it's mostly gray? And make sure that he's really self-conscious about it.
You want to seem younger, more virile, so the female listeners are more attracted to you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Got it. All right, moving on to physique. Slim, toned, muscular.
Dad bod.
I can see where this is going. Independent, inspirational, motivated.
How about meek and passive-aggressive?
Load up 820C, Ernie. This guy's compensating for something. Oh, and Mr. Garvin, make sure you clear your throat a lot, even when you don't need to. This will help you establish and maintain vocal dominance over your co-host. Sweet dreams, Mr. Garvin. Recall is based on the 1966 short story We Can Remember It For You Wholesale by the legendary science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. The 1990 motion picture was directed by Paul Verhoeven, which means that, Jeff, after Starship Troopers, this is now the second Paul Verhoeven film we've covered. Like, not two Spielbergs, not two Scorseses, freaking Verhoeven. Jeff.
What?
Isn't that weird?
Strangest thing.
Did you watch the movie?
I don't recall.
Clever boy. Okay, enough goofing around. Wrap a wet towel around your head and hail a Johnny Cab because we're experiencing Total Recall.
Act 1 begins with the world of common day, where we see our main character in his status quo normal life. I just wanted to say that the film opens with the TriStar logo, and I hadn't seen the TriStar Pictures logo. It's this Pegasus that flies toward the screen, and it's so bad. Like, the wings don't quite match the color of the body by a little bit, so it's flying toward you, and I was like, oh, wow.
I don't think I've ever paid that closely attention to
I hadn't either, but 1990 is a very different time. So, Douglas Quaid is a construction worker living on Earth with his wife, Lori, played by Sharon Stone, and he dreams of going to Mars. He feels he was meant for something more than this world. But Lori, his wife, insists that he's where he belongs. And I just wanted to draw attention for a moment to, in the short story by Philip K. Dick, his name is Quail.
Yes.
But in the movie, it's Quaid. And I thought, what a weird echo of Frisbee Brisbee, you know?
It
Yeah.
It is. And I was wondering why they made that change. The only thing I can think of is that this movie came out during the George H.W. Bush, Dan Quayle administration.
Oh.
So I wonder if they changed it to Quaid to avoid having a character with the same name as the vice president. And also Dennis Quaid, the actor, was kind of in his prime at the time too. So
I was also thinking that to quail means to shy away or retreat in fear from something. And
oh, interesting.
You can't really picture Arnold being a quail.
True.
That just seems
interesting,
incompatible.
Did you read the short story?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
So the character in the short story is a mild-mannered clerk at the Immigration Bureau.
Right.
You know, so he's not a big burly construction worker. Which Schwarzenegger is actually the one who suggested that change.
Oh, I didn't know
make so it would make more sense given his body type.
Ripped like.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn in my TPS report. I just wanted to. So the special effects in this movie are going to be an ongoing conversation because it actually won an Oscar for visual effects, which I think are different than special effects. I think special effects would be like the scene where he pulls the thing out of his nose. Visual effects would be like the big shots of Mars where there's compositing done. But in this dream,
I've never thought about that there might be a difference. I just figured that was all part of the same team of people, and some people do backgrounds and some people do model work. And
visual effects and
probably
special
different
effects.
departments, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, and different awards too.
Okay.
So in this first dream, we see, he falls down a mountain, hits his face mask on a rock, and his eyes start bulging out because of he's in a vacuum. And so I'm watching this with the FX. They seem really cheesy to me watching it from a 2020 perspective. And I thought at first, maybe this is just Paul Verhoeven kind of being tongue-in-cheek like he is. but they won an award, so clearly it was meant to be shocking. And
I don't remember other 1990 films that had big effects like this. I didn't have time to really look to see if there were any that I could recognize that maybe came out at the same time.
I found some behind the scenes stuff, and everyone that worked on this movie was like, we never had the opportunity to do anything this big. So there you go.
That's kind of awesome.
So that's what I got for World of Common Day.
I also watched the 2012 Total remake starring Colin Farrell, Kate Beckinsale, Jessica Biel.
I meant to watch it, but I did not have time. How is it?
I actually like it better than the 1990 version, and I know that's an unpopular opinion because the remake has like a 31 Rotten Tomatoes score.
Wow.
Yeah, and this original one, it's a classic sci-fi film. So, but visually, it was just really interesting. The story is a little different. The setup. He's a factory worker assembling synthetic federal police units. Or basically RoboCops.
Little Verhoeven nod,
another
right?
nod to another Verhoeven product. Moving on to Call to Adventure. This is where our hero is presented with a challenge which renders him unable to continue living in the comfort of his ordinary world. I guess we'll focus on the 1990 film. I mean, that's what was on the poll.
Yeah.
I guess we can pepper in little bits of information about the short story or the remake. I did do an analysis for all three, but I'm gonna we'll focus on the 1990 original. Quaid is on his way to work. He's on the subway and he sees a commercial for Recall.
Have you always wanted to climb the mountains of Mars? But now you're over the hill? Then come to Recall Incorporated, where you can buy the memory of your ideal vacation cheaper, safer, and better than the real thing. So don't let life pass you by. Call Recall for the memory of a lifetime.
For the memory of a lifetime, recall.
So if he just goes to Recall and gets a Mars memory implant, he gets what he wants and nobody's negatively affected.
Problem solved.
That's what I saw as the call.
Totally. And again, we have some expo on a TV, that frame within a frame kind of John Ford callback, which has become a Verhoeven staple. He does a lot of that in Starship Trappers. And then the other thing so this movie gets so many prescient technology things right in a cool way. Self-driving cars, thumbprint ID, but there they are, people sitting on the subway reading newspapers. And I thought that was an interesting anachronism. That brings us to refusal of the call. Confronted by fear of the unknown, our hero refuses to engage in the adventure. It's definitely refusal from without here. Quaid wants to go to Mars. He wants to have memories implanted. He's all about Mars. He is not refusing to go to Mars. So there's some refusal from without. Lori at the very beginning is like, well, you're fine here. Let's not go to Mars. Let's not move to Mars. Let's not go on vacation. Let's stay here. Let's go on a cruise. Let's have a vacation here and just have sex a lot is basically the undertone.
And he turns that down.
Yeah, and
He's not
she's
interested
like,
in Sharon Stone.
she's trying to kiss him, and he's like, no, get off me. I'm trying to watch the Mars show, And then his coworker buddy Harry, who is played by Bobby Costanzo of
Yes.
City Slickers.
Yes.
You can't go through there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. He warns him, don't go to Total Recall, or don't go to Recall, because my friend went and he almost got lobotomized. Oh, and then he sings when he's telling him about, he sings the Recall theme song. He's like, Recall, which is totally not how it goes. And it makes me wonder, did the director not know what it was going to sound like? Or is Harry has never seen a commercial, so he's just trying to, it just was interesting.
He's seen it. I think Harry is just tone deaf.
He's tone deaf, you think?
I feel like if I were to try to sing the theme song right now, too, I couldn't do it either.
But he
I would
doesn't-
sound like him.
Recall. But he doesn't even get the rhythm right. He just makes it up. I think they just hadn't figured it out.
He's just a construction worker. He
Whatever.
doesn't care.
Also in this scene, literally everyone is wearing a hard hat and eye protection except the guys who are jackhammering concrete. And if they had a time machine and could go forward to 1997, they'd know that bad things happen to people in Verhoeven movies when they're not wearing their helmet.
Right.
So, and even when he gets to Recall, McClane, the Recall salesman, encourages him to try Saturn instead. So there's all sorts of refusal from without in this movie.
Supernatural aid, or as Christopher Vogler calls this section, meeting with the mentor. This is where the hero receives counsel on how to operate in the special world. I didn't see a whole lot of mentorship here. I kind of thought that the discussion with McClane, the Recall salesman, wasn't really mentorship, but he was selling Quaid on the package, and you get to be a secret agent, and you're going to fight for the resistance and kill the bad guys and get the girl and save the planet.
Yeah, it fits the slot. It's a dude giving him advice, and they're literally in a meeting. And it fits in the right spot in the movie.
Yeah, but I didn't see anything else really going beyond that fit the slot, except potentially the guy on the vid phone who tells him to wrap the wet towel around his head and leaves the briefcase on the street.
Yeah, I guess that's supernatural aid, right?
Because that gives him all that extra information. Now, when you know the full story, you know all that as a setup.
Yeah.
But when you're watching the film for the first time, that appears to be a mysterious ally who is providing equipment and gear, the lightsaber, to the hero.
Right.
So that they can continue on their quest.
I saw two other mentor moments.
Okay, great.
They're very out of sequence. Later on in Act 2, Quaid meets Hauser for the first time via that video he's left behind. And like Q in the Bond films, Hauser gives him stuff and helps him to the next part of his journey. And then later, the resistance leader, Kawato, becomes a mentor, helping Quaid realize what his value is to the resistance during their mind meld. That leads us to crossing the threshold. The hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world, and this crossing represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. Quaid sits back in the Recall memory machine chair, ready to have his memories implanted. This is the moment where he commits to the adventure of going to Mars. And he quite literally gets what he signed up for. There's a really great bit of performance from Arnold here. And I think he gets underrated as an actor. It's hard to be an action movie star. So as he's lying back in this chair, he's grinning like a kid, like, I can't wait to get into this. And then as he leans back and his head hits the chair, his expression turns into one of apprehension. Like he's like, wait, what am I doing? It's all in this one little moment, from grinning to putting his head in the chair and looking around like, oh, this is scary. It's really a nice performance. And then there's some foreshadowing here as the doc tosses her tech, Ernie, played by David Nell, and looking like a young John Hughes, tosses him the module, and he says, that's a new one, Blue Sky on Mars.
Right.
And then, still part of it, Dr. Lull, aptly named, takes Quaid through a series of options, and the screen is showing like a weird Barbie doll figure that's supposed to be representing the different body type. It's awful.
Yeah.
And one of the options is Oriental, which I'm pretty sure was a
What?
word. Yeah, it's like in the bottom of the screen, one of the options you can choose was Oriental.
Wow.
And I'm like pretty sure that people weren't, even in 1990, I don't think people were using that word.
Wow.
And then the sexism here is very consistent with Philip K. Dick's short story, which I realize is in the 60s, early 60s. But the only two female characters in the short story are Quill's wife, who is a nagging shrew.
Yes.
And the secretary at Recall, who's like literally a bare-breasted bimbo.
Topless all the
It's
time.
horrible. And then Quaid likes his women, athletic, brunette, sleazy, and demure.
Yep.
It's just like, and there's one last bit of refusal here.
I mean, it's wish fulfillment.
For sure. Absolutely.
Of course
It's his
you would.
fantasy. It's
Yeah.
his fantasy, right?
And like Dr. Lull says, be honest and you'll enjoy yourself a whole lot more.
Exactly. There's one last piece of refusal here as he wakes up shouting about his cover being blown and about how people are going to kill them all. But McClane and his people subdue him and manage to tranquilize him with shots. Like
8 times.
It's like,
Kill an elephant with the number of times that she tranquilizes
that's
him.
right. And it's 7 shots, just like the 7 bullets
No, it's
in
8.
Brad Pitt's gun.
Incorrect. It's 8. I counted. It's
Kidding.
8.
Oh,
I
and
actually counted because I knew you were going to do this.
when Arnold goes to strangle McClane,
Yeah.
that neck crunching sound is right out of Star Wars when Vader, it's like
When
celery being
when he kills
crushed. or
Captain
something.
Antilles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of Act 1.
Okay, so let's head over to the side quest at Campbell Cafe.
It's quiet in here this morning.
There was some complaints last episode about the background noise
Right, the
being a
musicians.
little too loud. People
Yeah.
kept moving their chairs around. So there's this little side room called the side quest here at Campbell Cafe.
Nice.
With the door closed, it muffles a lot of that background noise quite a bit. So hopefully it's better for people, but do give me some feedback if it's still too loud, and then we'll find another place to go. So Jeff, what were your side quests since we recorded? What was the last one? Edge of Tomorrow.
I'm on a YA kick because I'm writing. So I read All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. It's a 2 point of view book about a girl who is mourning the loss of her sister. They were in a car accident together. She survived. Her sister died. And it's been almost a year. And she's disengaged from life. And now her family and her friends are like, okay, it's time to get back on the horse. And she's just resisting. And in the opening scene, she's standing at like the clock tower, the bell tower at her school. And she comes up there potentially maybe to jump off. And there's a boy up there.
Oh.
There's a boy up there and he's about to jump off. And he talks her down. He saves her. It's actually a Netflix movie that just came out. So if you don't want to read the book, watch it on Netflix. He is a very interesting, unusual guy. And I don't want to spoil the story because there's a big reveal. But it deals with mental illness in a great way. So if you want to read YA with some mental health issues, All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. And then I read an advanced reader copy of my friend Marisa Reichardt's upcoming novel, Aftershocks, which is about a girl surviving the big one in Southern California.
Wow.
It's somehow a disaster movie thriller, life or death thing, and also a contemporary real life coming of age story in a way. It's very interesting. She wrote one of my favorite books of my debut year, Underwater. So Aftershocks by Marisa Reichart, I highly recommend. I did not watch a single film between the last time we recorded and now.
Wow.
But I did finish The Crown.
Okay.
Which is very interesting because every 2 seasons they change the cast entirely because they're trying to go because they're going from the beginning of Elizabeth's reign until modern day. And they can only age them up so much.
Got it.
So season 3 starts and you're like, what's going on? I don't know any of these people. And then after a couple episodes, you go, oh wow, those actors clearly studied the way the other actor did it, and so it's good. I highly recommend it. And then I started watching The Newsroom, which was an HBO series, Aaron Sorkin. It's fantastic. I love it. How about you, Dan? What did you read, watch, play?
I read This Is How You Lose the Time War.
Ooh.
A book that you read and talked about during the 310 to Yuma episode.
Did you hate it? I'm so
No,
sad.
it took me 75 pages to get into it, though. I was about to drop it.
Yes.
I really was. And then once I hit page 70 or 75, I couldn't put it down. And I was scared, too. Like those first 70 pages, I'm like, I'm not really getting
it's thick, man.
This or why Jeff was so high on this book, and now I'm gonna have to tell him I didn't like it, and he's gonna be mad at me, and this will be the last episode. And but then I hit that point, and it was just like a downhill ski slope, and just all. And I really enjoyed the last 2/3 of it. But the first chunk, I had a rough time. Then I listened on Audible to Where Gods Fear to Go by Angus Watson, read by Sean Barrett. This is book 3 of Angus Watson's West of West trilogy. This is the conclusion of the story. And just as with book 1 and book 2, I absolutely loved it. Sean Barrett is fantastic. Yeah. He's such a great audiobook performer. Wonderful. I'm going to look for more of his. I know Angus Watson has another trilogy that's based in Iron Age England, and Sean Barrett narrates that as well. Ooh. So I want to check that out as well. But man, just that West of West trilogy is so fun and funny and exciting and great action and really creative. Enjoyed it so very much. Then establish and maintain vocal dominance.
Man, look, if I felt like there wasn't a bubble of viscous in my throat, I wouldn't have to do this.
That is tasty. And then, because there must be balance in the universe, you watched 0 films.
Yeah.
I watched 14.
Holy
Yeah. I went ape.
Wow.
I really took advantage of the opportunity and watched 14 films. I'm going to discuss each one in detail now.
Bonus content.
Yeah, right, yeah. And they were from all over. I watched 4 from the 1940s, 2 from the 90s, 1 from the 20-aughts, 6 from the 20-teens. 3 of those films were from Italy and 1 from Japan. And then the rest are, I guess, American? I don't know if I want to list them all real quick. Or
Well, we can put them on the website, all the movies.
I guess of those, the ones I want to point out are Roberto Rossellini's War trilogy. These are the kind of credited as being the first Italian neo-realist films that were released mid and post World War II. At the time, the Italian film industry had taken a huge hit because, of course, Italy was a battleground in the war, and Rome, particularly, was occupied by the Germans. The Roman studio, which I believe is called Cinecittà, it's like a 90-acre studio movie lot thing. It was heavily damaged in bombing, and the German army confiscated all of the film equipment on their way out. So the Italians, particularly with the first film in this trilogy, Roma Città Aperta, which means Rome, open city, Rossellini had to scrounge film scrap in order to make the film, which, when you know that, really made me appreciate what he had to go through to make this movie. Now, obviously, the quality of these 3 films are not great because of those hardships.
You mean the visual quality or just...
Yeah, the audio quality is crap, and visually they look weird. But I watched also from that same time period, The Big Sleep from 1946, directed by Howard Hawks. This is the one with...
Is that based on the Raymond Chandler?
Yes. And when you realize that those movies are made at the same time, but The Big Sleep was made by a wealthy Hollywood studio with top-of-the-line equipment of the day, the difference is incredible.
Wow.
It's amazing. And that really made me appreciate Rossellini's War trilogy even that much more.
That's awesome, Dan.
The movie I want to highlight the most, though, out of these 14 that I watched, is a Japanese animated film from 97 called Perfect Blue, directed by Satoshi Kon. This is a thriller about a pop star who quits her band to focus on acting. She sheds her good girl image, and this draws the ire of an obsessed fan. And so she then has to deal with threats from that fan, and her sense of reality, her grasp of reality begins to blur between her real life and the life that she's portraying in this television show that she's got a role in. It was really great.
I'm gonna add it to Letterboxd right now.
Yeah, Perfect Blue. I really enjoyed it. I wrote a quick review of it too, so on Letterboxd.
I will say I find it hard to believe that someone's going to go from like musician to actor to filmmaker. That sort of
completely
seems far-fetched.
unrealistic.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
I mean, I think that's probably why they all end up in podcasting.
Yeah,
instead.
Exactly. Easier to do. I forgot to mention one book because I'm not finished with it yet, but I'm going to finish it. So I kind of want to talk about it now instead of a month from now.
Okay.
Which is Heir to the Empire, the Timothy Zahn
You haven't finished that
book.
yet?
Almost done.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening to the audiobook. So I want to say this is what I love about it. The narrator is amazing.
Oh, good.
He does Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Lando. He has to do callbacks to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He does 3PO. And they're close enough to the movie voices that you go, oh my gosh, he's so good.
Good.
Like, he's the best narrator since Jim Dale that I've ever listened to. He's spectacular because the bar is so high.
Sure.
And, I love Star Wars. So I'm enjoying being in the world again with those characters. Leia gets some screen time long deserved that she didn't get in the trilogy. That said, I think it's almost like people who have recommended that book to me must not have read it recently, because the criticisms
we all read it when it first came out.
Right.
In the 90s.
So the big thing is everyone's like, oh man, they should have done Heir to the Empire instead of Force Awakens. Like, why didn't they do that?
Right.
Because the new movies are just like fan service and like, this book is full of nostalgia and fan service. Literally, lines are taken, and there's this character remembered when Obi-Wan said. I mean, it's peppered with things that are clearly supposed to evoke your love of the movies, and then there's these monkey, like snake, furry-legged animals that magically make the Force not work. It's like midichlorians all over again.
Yeah.
And so I
forgot about those.
Like Thrawn goes to get these monkey things so that the Jedi can't. It's just like, well, that's sort of a universe breaking concept. And then the other thing that doesn't work is, and I know everyone loves Thrawn, he's a cheesy Bond villain. Everything on the contrary. I mean, he says all these things that are so bad. And then the last thing, and I realize this is a writer thing, and the book is 30 years old, 35 years, 20. Well, I don't know. It's old. It's old by modern
I think they came out when we were in
standards.
high school.
The writing, man. Oh boy. So
not a fan.
The dialogue in particular, he's allergic to the word said. It's as though he's like, everyone uses said. He uses such and such. She bit out. And if he uses the word said, there's an adverb. But it's like, she graded. I mean, all the things that Stephen King says on writing, he does exactly the opposite. Yeah, okay. The dialogue retribution is full of. There's actually one where it's like, I'm sorry, Luke apologized. I mean, That's just ridiculous. It's a total Tom Swift moment. So that said, I'm very much enjoying it, but I have to sort of unplug a lot of my pet peeves to get through it.
This is a trilogy, so are you going to try to do the other two, or
I'm going to finish this book and see am I dying to hear what happens next.
Okay, well, I'm done with my coffee, but if you still have some coffee left over, I can keep talking about these 14 movies that I saw, or we could just head back to Studio Z.
I'm saving the end of my coffee so I can still do coffee to alcohol in less than a minute. Is now my goal.
It's going to be cold by then. We have to do Act 2, and Act 2 is huge.
No. It's pretty short. We get right into Act 3.
In this film.
Let's
All right,
do it.
Let's head back to Studio Z and jump into Act 2. Act 2 begins with the road of trials, or tests, allies, and enemies. Having crossed the first threshold, the hero meets allies, makes enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove their worthiness. Before I begin, I am going to issue a retraction of a statement I made during our Edge of Tomorrow episode.
You're goddamn right you are.
Where you said Brigham was a shapeshifter, and I said no, he wasn't. I was misinterpreting or misremembering that the shapeshifter actually changes their allegiance.
Yeah.
Like Sullivan does in The Secret of Nim, where he goes from a bad guy, an actual bad guy, to becoming an actual good guy.
Right.
That was, in my head, that's what I was thinking the shapeshifter was. But you're right, because I reread that section in Vogler's book, and the shapeshifter does, from the hero's perspective, switch allegiances. Whether or not they actually do is inconsequential.
Right. I went back and reread that too to make sure I wasn't high.
So allies. Melina, the woman that Quaid dreams about on Mars every night.
Yes.
He gets to finally meet her, or re-meet her.
Yes.
And then the denizens of the Last Resort Bar and Grill.
The Resistance, members of the Resistance.
Yeah. The Resistance are mutants on Mars who are trying to make a better way of life for themselves against the oppressive regime of Cohagen. He owns the air, essentially, on Mars. And so that's when you realize that this movie is a dig at capitalism.
Yeah, it's really an allegory in a lot of ways, where the short story was not.
Enemies, Lori, who turns out to be one of Cohagen's thugs.
Yeah.
Richter, played by Michael Ironside.
It's our second Michael Ironside movie.
He's a loose cannon. Cohagen wants Richter to bring Quaid in alive, but Richter's not having it. He knows Quaid's dangerous, and he and his men are trying to kill Quaid. Cohagen's thugs, and then Cohagen himself. Benny, the cab driver, is a shapeshifter. He appears to be an ally until he betrays them at the end.
Yes.
So I put him in the enemies category.
Yeah.
Those are basically the characters. Are there any that I missed?
I listed Hauser as an enemy and a shapeshifter. He's set Doug up and essentially fooled him into doing his bidding, and then at the end reveals that he's done this like in a really dickish way.
Yeah, I love the camera pull back to
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I mean, Hauser is Quaid, but you're right, because Quaid has no memory of being Hauser. Hauser is essentially a completely different character.
Because this is one of those movies that deals in everything isn't what it seems, dreams versus reality, who are you versus who were you. There's a lot of shape-shifting going on. I mean, Melinda appears to be a shapeshifter because she's set up as an ally, and then she's like mad at Quaid for being Hauser and throws him out, but then she comes to his aid. So she is constantly surprising him after he first meets her.
Yeah.
And then George / Kuato is a shapeshifter because he's literally not what he... Yeah, George.
Yeah, George, who's played by Marshall Bell.
Yes.
Who is also in Starship Troopers.
He's a Verhoeven player.
As is Dean Norris, who
Yes.
plays Tony, the mutant.
Yes, and if you don't know Dean Norris, he was in Breaking Bad as the brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to say one other thing about Marshall Bell.
Yeah.
Because he has a strange connection because...
Oh, God.
What?
Is this a Jeff Garvin actor moment?
No, it's not. He was in Stand By Me, which is a movie based on a Stephen King novella that's in the same volume as The Shawshank Redemption. So there's that connection. And he plays, in that movie, John Cusack's father. And John Cusack was in Say Anything, which is another movie we covered on The Hero's Journey.
Wait, what? He plays John Cusack's father in what?
John Cusack plays Denny, Gordy's older brother, in Stand By Me.
What?
Yeah, in Stand By Me, the whole older brother with the baseball glove. And
That's John Cusack?
That's John Cusack.
No, I have to watch Stand By
Yes,
Me
it
again.
is.
I have no idea that John
It's-
Cusack's in Stand By
It's
Me.
a great performance by John Cusack. Yeah, you got to watch it again. He's great.
What?
Yeah, he plays Denny, Gordy's older brother. Remember, his older brother died, and Gordy was never the favorite, and Denny was
It's not
perfect.
that I don't remember the story.
Oh,
it's that I don't remember
sorry.
that John Cusack
Yeah, it's a great.
is in Stand By Me.
He's great. He's only in one scene or two scenes, and you love him. You're just like, oh, he must have been the best big brother ever. We get why Gordy.
I can't even right now.
Do you want to IMDb it? Are you like
I
totally in
guess.
disbelief?
I
Oh, wow.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
Holy crap. Stand By Me, Denny LaChance.
Yep.
Oh my God. Wow.
You got to watch it
Okay.
again. It's so good.
I've seen that movie and I've seen it recently. I don't know why I have zero memory of John Cusack. Does he look different? Or does he look like John Cusack?
He looks like young John Cusack to me.
How do I not know that?
By the way, I know.
Okay, anyway,
Stand By Me is in my top 10 movies of all time. I love that movie so much. Anyway,
Which is why you remember that John Cusack's in that movie.
maybe.
All right, anyway. Well, okay, that was a test for me and I failed. So let's get into the test for the movie of Total Recall. All right, test one. We talked about this already. You put it in part of the Crossing the Threshold where Quaid wakes up. Well, he doesn't wake up. He you blew my cowboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's trying to escape, and he's trying to convince the staff at Recall, you've got to let me out.
Oh, sure.
Because they're going to come and kill us now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you've got to let me out, and they subdue him again.
Yes.
And the working conditions at Recall are terrible. First of all, McClane, who appears to be the boss of the two technicians,
and is also the sales guy.
he calls Dr. Lull a stupid bitch.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
And then Ernie gets slapped by Dr. Lull when he starts to
They are horrible
I was like,
people.
What? Why have none of these people been fired or taken to HR yet?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Another reason it's like 1990, right?
there's the Johnny Cab sequence. The Johnny Cab drops Quaid off at the subway station, and Harry, Quaid's construction coworker, confronts Quaid. First, he's a shapeshifter here. He's his buddy. He's like, hey, let me buy you a beer. And then when Quaid takes off, he's like, no, I've got to go. That's so bad.
I can't get enough. I can't get enough of your bad Arnold. Bring it.
Anyway, so there's three dudes coming down the stairs, and they're all armed, and they grab him, and
Yeah.
it's you blabbed about Mars, Quaid. You blabbed. I told you not to go to Recall. But Quaid subdues and kills all four of these armed men.
He goes full Jason Bourne.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he's like, how did I even do that? I think in the 2012 version of the movie, that's a really great scene too. I think Colin Farrell plays that really well. That realization of, oh my God, I just killed 10 cops. Like, what just happened to me?
Wow.
So that's a test.
Yeah.
Where now he's got to reconcile what just happened. I just murdered 4 people in a subway station.
Yeah. There's a couple really cool martial arts moments in this movie where one of the subduers is coming at him with a gun, and Arnold Shudo chops him right in the nose, and his nose just explodes in blood. Now that's a good effect, right?
Yeah.
Like they had to trigger that blood spat, right? Anyway.
Yeah. Quaid returns home, panicked, to find Lori, and he tells her what happened. And she tries to calm him down, says, you went, I told you, like, why'd you go to recall? They messed with your head and you're having a delusion. You didn't kill anybody. It's fine. Like, I'm going to call a doctor.
Yeah.
And he holds up his bloody hands and he says, does this look like
a delusion?
A delusion.
Yeah.
So he goes and he washes his hands and his face. He comes out to gunfire.
Right.
And it's, there's some dark room fisticuffs that happen, and then the lights come on and he realizes that it's Lori who's trying to kill him. So here's the next shapeshift. Everybody is turning on Quaid now, and you're starting to realize like something's not, well, not that you don't realize something's not right. It's just the snowball is building.
Yes. Ooh, good one. Snowball is building.
So he subdues Lori, and she tells him the truth. I'm not your wife. I only met you 6 weeks ago. Your whole life is a dream.
Yes.
And then they very casually sit down at the counter and talk, and she tries to seduce him a little bit.
Yeah.
And because she knows, she's looking over Quaid's shoulder at the television monitor that I guess is a security monitor, and she's watching Richter, because he's the doctor that she called, watching Richter and all of his men approaching.
Right.
She's like, you could tie me up if you don't trust me. And then very obviously looks over his shoulder at the television screen.
Yeah.
Way to telegraph it. I thought that was a really funny moment.
That's a director thing.
Bad. It was a bad moment. But then Quaid turns around, sees what's happening, and then he quotes Jurassic Park.
Clever girl.
And then Dex Lori just knocks her out with a left hook.
There's a little bit of violence against women and sexism in this movie.
Yeah. That's a test that I guess he passes because he survives the fight with Lori, who, during that fight, you realize Lori, she's got training.
Right.
Right? I mean, she's pulling out some kung fu moves on him. And,
yes.
And she's a combatant.
Yes.
So now he has to try to escape Richter and Richter's thugs.
Right.
He runs to the subway, and there is some RoboCop violence.
Yes.
In this scene.
Holy crap,
now,
it's violent.
I just want to point out that this scene is one of the reasons this movie was originally given an X rating for excessive violence.
An X rating?
X rating. They had to pare down a lot of the violence to get the R.
Wow.
When you look at this scene and this poor bystander that Arnold uses as a human shield.
Oh, on the escalator?
On the escalator in the subway station. Yes. Holy crap, this guy is just loaded with squibs, and he's just exploding in red fountains of goo.
Yeah.
As he just gets blasted with bullets by all these guys that are trying to shoot Quaid. This is the toned down version of this scene.
I reacted to that too, and I was like, okay, so what massive cover-up are they going to have to do? Like, this is the most... How are they going to explain, like, a massacre in the subway?
Quaid escapes, dives through the window of a moving subway train as Richter and his men are firing bullets wildly into this subway train. And then as he stands up, he sees this TV ad for, don't bother with implanted memories. Take a trip you can really afford. Climb on one of our rockets and go to Mars.
Yeah, thanks, a-holes. So I just want to point out, and there's two scenes in the movie that sort of foreshadow this problem. But Quaid manages to get on a train, and the glass on the windows of this train and throughout the movie was like apparently manufactured in a small European village in the 17th century, because it just shatters. It's not safety glass. It shatters in big gross shards. And like, if you were going to build a colony on Mars, the glass would be on the list of things you would want to really get technologically right. And it's not even like safety glass from the 1980s. It's just jagged shards of death raining down on people. And it becomes a feasibility problem later in the movie. And it's also a great thing in the end of the sequence where Richter gets in a car, Cohagen gets on the video phone and is trying to give him orders, and Richter is the first person ever, this is before cell phones were widely distributed, to do the, oh, you're breaking up, I can't hear you gag.
And he's like tuning the video phone like a radio.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're breaking up, I can't hear you.
The next test is Quaid getting the vid phone call from the mysterious stranger on the payphone down at the street who leaves the briefcase for him, tells him to wrap a wet towel around his head. He's got a bug buried in his brain, and he needs to follow my instructions fast or they're going to find you in about 3 minutes. And so with the wet towel around his head, that muffles the signal that the bug is giving. And so Richter and... Does that other guy have a name? The guy with the yellow glasses?
No, we never find out.
I don't know what his name is.
Oh, the guy with the yellow... Yeah, he's a name, but I don't remember what it is. Yeah.
Anyway, so he's the one... He's like the computer guy, I guess. He's tracking Quaid. So he loses the signal long enough for Quaid to follow this guy's instructions and escape. Can Quaid accept what's going on? Or is he going to question it long enough so that it's too late?
Interesting.
And he'll be found out.
Interesting, yeah.
All right, so next test. I thought opening the suitcase.
Yes.
Well, there's the Johnny Cab escape where Richter and the guy, whatever his toadie's name is, have found.
Let's call him Flat Top.
And he has to escape again. He jumps into a Johnny Cab, fails to have it together enough to give a direction to the Johnny Cab. The Johnny Cab's like, would you please state the address?
Yeah.
So he just destroys the Johnny Cab driver and drives off himself. So there's a little car chase there.
Yeah.
He crashes and then takes the suitcase.
The car explodes.
Yeah.
As though it were filled with,
maybe
hydrogen.
Maybe they used a Ford Pinto as the base vehicle there. So I saw the opening of the briefcase, looking at all the different IDs that are available. There's wads of red money.
Yeah.
And then there's the video from Hauser that you mentioned earlier, where Hauser, who's him,
right,
says, "You're not you, you're me, and you're an agent of the Resistance, and you've got to get to Mars and take out Cohagen."
Yeah.
And then and here's this weird device, and shove it up your nose and yank the bug out.
Stick it up your nose.
And
there's another great Arnold line that we missed, which is when Johnny Cab says, "You have to pay the fare," after he crashes the car. He says, "Sue me, dickhead."
Call him a dickhead?
He calls him a dickhead.
And that's what makes him explode. Yeah. Johnny Cab can't handle being insulted. Oh, and one of the other tools that are in the briefcase is the hologram. That becomes useful at the end of the film.
Yeah, it's like the Bond movie with Q. It's like the Q scene. Here's your passports, here's your gadgets, here's your stuff.
Exactly.
Supernatural aid.
And so, yeah, right. That is a very late supernatural aid scene.
Yeah.
And then Quaid escapes. He sees Richter and his men approaching. He puts the bug in a piece of food or something and feeds it to the rats, and the rats take it around, and that delays Richter and his men.
It's a Snickers bar.
Really? Is it a Snickers bar?
You can tell by the little waffle pattern, the little zigzag pattern on the bottom of it. That's totally a Snickers bar.
They all have that pattern on the bottom.
No, it's a Snickers bar.
All right, it's a Snickers bar.
Or a Milky Way, one of the two.
Whatever. It's from the Mars company, at least.
Mars. It's a Mars bar.
It's got to be Mars bar.
It's a Mars bar.
What if it is?
It must be.
Yeah. So then Quaid escapes. And that's what I saw as the last test before the approach to the inmost cave.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I agree. That brings us to approach to the inmost cave.
Thank you, and enjoy your stay on Mars.
The hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of his quest is hidden.
Yeah.
Quaid arrives on Mars.
I have to find the object of my quest.
He shows up at the airport in drag as a large redhead.
So how long do you plan to stay on Mars?
2 weeks.
Oh, such a great scene.
His disguise malfunctions.
Have you brought any fruits or vegetables onto the planet?
2 weeks.
Excuse me?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
And his cover is blown, so once again he's on the run from Richter. And there's It's a crazy memorable performance by the late actress Priscilla Allen.
Yeah.
And she's grabbing her mouth, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense why this is happening, but it's so great. And then the head splits open and he tosses it, and it's an explosive device. I mean, I think the screenwriter and Paul Verhoeven must have been sitting around a hookah full of,
hookah.
something. Okay, so
I thought it was a great scene.
Richter starts firing at Quaid and misses, and a single bullet blows the glass dome.
Yes.
Like, if your city is so fragile that a single bullet will shatter the dome, consider not making guns available. Like, this is a horrible, horrible, like, hole in this movie. It's just completely, it's not even, and again, it's not tempered glass. It shatters into jagged shards.
Yeah.
The hell?
I think it's just representative of the shortcuts that Cohagen took when building the facility.
No.
Yeah, it's not a hole in the movie.
miners
It's
are
just-
everyone
it's
that works
Cohagen.
for him would die. The economy that he wants to. Anyway, I don't buy it. It's just horrible.
Jeff, look what happens today when you reduce regulations on something, and then thousands of lives are suddenly
Is it like
lost
that in the 2012 movie? Is the glass on the dome made?
They don't
from
go to Mars.
The most
There's no Mars. It all takes place on Earth.
really?
Yeah. When he's talking to Harry at work, Harry says something about Mars, and Quaid says, I'd like to go to Mars. But that's it. He doesn't actually go. It's just the secret agent fantasy, but it all takes place on Earth. Oh, and it's set up because when he's riding to work, he's reading The Spy Who Loved Me by Ian Fleming, James Bond movie. So that sets up this is why he's interested in the secret agent fantasy.
Okay, so Quaid shows up at the Hilton and shows his ID at the desk and gets a message. It's a flyer from a strip club. And on the back is written, "For a good time, ask for Melina." And it's in Quaid's own handwriting. He borrows a pen and writes, oh my God. So he's being led deeper toward the inmost cave. Technology note, thumbprint ID is real, but his ID is laminated paper.
Yes,
like a driver's
I
license
loved
from the
that.
50s.
Yeah, it was like a 1980s library card.
This is when we meet Benny, the gold-toothed cab driver.
Damn you, Benny!
Welcome to Mars, man.
So he takes him to the last resort. This set they built for the alley is so great. And there's an old Pepsi logo and an old Jack in the Box logo.
Yeah.
Which, again, totally pins this to 1990. Inside the last resort, we meet some threshold guardians blocking Quaid's path. The bartender, Quaid bribes, and then Tony, played by Dean Norris, and then George, played by Marshall Bell. They're trying to keep him away from Melina. Also, I was rereading The Approach, actually in Vogler and in Campbell, and courtship can be a part of The Approach. And this is where Quaid meets Melina, and they share like a sexy, gross moment where she like grabs his crotch. What have you been feeding this thing? Blondes. It's like, and upstairs, Melina becomes a guardian, telling Quaid that he's not Quaid, but Hauser, and she doesn't believe him. And she kicks him out. He's got nowhere left to go. He's lost and without a next step. That is where I see the end of The Approach.
Totally agree. What? Wow, I am shocked that we are in
Me too.
step.
I thought for sure we were going to argue about this.
Ordeal.
Sorry.
You timed that perfectly well
sorry.
to establish and maintain vocal dominance.
I don't need a gimmick to establish vocal dominance.
Oh, Ordeal. Where our hero faces the ultimate test, often risking death to overcome their worst fear, and sometimes actually appearing to die. Quaid returns to his hotel room and is watching the news on TV when he gets a visit from Dr. Edgemar from Recall. Edgemar tries to persuade Quaid that he's not really on Mars, that they are both sitting in Recall on Earth, and Dr. Edgemar has been chemically injected into Quaid's memory in an effort to get him to want to come out of the memory.
Right.
Quaid's not buying it. Dr. Edgemar then opens the door, and Lori walks in in a business suit. This is different. We've never seen Lori like this before.
Right.
She's the concerned wife. Doug, please come home. I love you. And still Quaid's not buying it. Edgemar offers Quaid the red pill from the Matrix.
Right.
And says, if you swallow this, you can come back to reality.
You can't be told what the Matrix is. You have to be shown.
And then as Quaid appears to be taking the pill, he sees a single bead of sweat run down Dr. Edgemar's temple and then his cheek. And this makes Quaid believe that Edgemar is lying, and so he shoots him in the head.
Right in the head. Yeah.
Which then causes Cohagen's thugs to come bursting through the styrofoam wall. So again, I'm saying this is the you know the all the building materials that were used are all cutting costs.
Come on.
All cutting costs because Cohagen is trying to maximize his profits.
It's an interesting theory.
So there is a battle as the thugs and Laurie try to take down Quaid. Quaid takes out quite a few of them before he is overpowered and knocked out and handcuffed.
Yeah.
As the enemies are dragging Quaid away, the elevator doors open up and Melina comes out with a submachine gun.
Yes.
And just annihilates all of the male enemies. So Laurie is hidden behind the wall.
Right.
And then Laurie and Melina get into a pretty good martial arts fight.
Yeah.
Verhoeven specifically wanted them to both learn moves because he didn't want it to seem like a typical hair-pulling, scratching cat fight. He wanted them to look like they were both technically trained in martial arts. And they do a good job of it.
Yeah.
And just as Laurie's about to kill Melina with a knife, Doug wakes up and...
Doug. Honey, you wouldn't hurt me, would you, sweetheart? Sweetheart, be reasonable. After all, we're married.
Consider that a divorce.
Now, I'm seeing the ordeal continue even beyond this. Quaid and Melina now have to run because the elevator is coming to their floor again.
Right.
With Richter and the guy with yellow glasses and the fuzzy head.
Flat top.
Another chase ensues.
Yeah.
Gunfire, blasting out your favorite windows of the Benny cab. And Benny drives them to the last resort where Tony opens a secret door and ushers the three of them inside.
Yeah.
Richter and his men then arrive and a gun battle ensues in the last resort. The best shot in this film is in this scene where Thumbelina, the little person hooker played by Debbie Lee Carrington, jumps up on the bar and starts firing a Franchi LF-57 at the cops that have shown up, and she was ripped.
Yeah,
that
she's
girl
ripped.
had some muscles. I mean,
she's a killer shot.
It was hilarious. That is
Yeah.
my favorite shot in the whole movie. I took a screenshot of it because it was just so cool.
She's awesome.
I loved it. And that is what I saw as the ordeal.
Totally agree. I had a couple things I wanted to chime in on.
Okay.
Sharon Stone is so great at playing someone who is a good liar. And that is a complex thing to do as an actor because you can't really get away with just playing the scene like the person's telling the truth. You have to add this layer that the person is aware that they're lying. Also, that whole Matrix red pill thing was amazing. And what's even more amazing is to realize that The Matrix was made 9 years after this film came out.
Yeah.
And the difference in special effects just during the 90s is astounding.
Yes.
You can really see that geometric curve. What is it called? The asymptotic curve of technology. If you look at films from the 1970 to 1990, there's some improvements. But 1990 to 1999, we went from cheesy, eye-popping models to bullet time, and just amazing. Right. A couple other just peeks into Campbell. Laurie acts as the woman as temptress in this sequence, and then there's another concept that's called apotheosis, which is the hero's recognition of the divine within himself. This is where Quaid realizes he really is a secret agent. this is real. This is the moment when he doesn't swallow that red pill where he knows this really is who I am.
Or at least as far as the implanted memory tells him he is.
I mean, he just committed to it not being a fantasy when he spits the pill out and shoots Dr. Edgemar. Oh, by the way,
Unless that's all part of the fantasy.
Dr. Edgemar is the guy from the commercial at the beginning.
Yes.
Reward. The ultimate boon. The hero, having faced their worst fear, seizes the object of their quest. One of the rewards is he gains Melina as an ally. And in a way, she's been the object of his quest since his dream on Mars, from Quaid's perspective. Obviously, Hauser knew her already, but she is his ideal. She's the woman he describes when he's in the chair.
Yep.
He's also gained the trust of the Resistance. You know, he says, "I thought you didn't like me." And she says, "If Cohagen's trying to kill you, you must be all right." So after another escape from Richter and his goons, like you said, by the way, there's something going on between Richter and Lori. They're girlfriend, boyfriend.
Oh, yeah. They're obviously a couple.
Now Richter is unhinged.
Right.
He's, like you said, he's a loose cannon. His orders mean nothing. Now he's going to go after Quaid at all costs and kill him, find a reason to kill him. Cohagen's orders be damned. We don't yet know the depth of why Cohagen is protecting Quaid. We just know that Cohagen wants him alive. Melina takes him to visit Kuato, who is a slimy Chucky doll living inside Marshall Bell's tummy.
So gross.
And Kuato mind melds with Doug.
Open your mind.
God, that's really good, Dan. And he uncovers Quaid's memory of a giant alien reactor inside the mountain, which, if activated, will release enough air for the whole planet. So the revelation of that is part of the reward. Now he knows the secret of why he's been doing this.
Correctamundo.
That's the end of Act 2.
Wow. This is a chunky movie.
Yeah.
And it's not even 2 hours. But there's a lot that happens in this film.
Yeah. And
it's exhausting.
The pace is incredible.
Yeah.
He is always running from Richter, except for a couple little breather moments.
Yeah.
It's great. The pacing is great. It's a great action movie from that perspective.
I think that I have either never seen Total Recall or I saw it so long ago and have forgotten the majority of it because most of it was new to me.
Huh.
Or it seemed new. The main scenes that always show up on retrospective, movies of the 90s, things on VH1 and things like that, those I remember because those scenes are just kind of part of pop culture now.
Yeah.
But the majority of the rest of the movie was totally foreign to me. So I think I've never seen Total Recall until now. And the first time I watched it, I did not like it. It was a 2-star movie for me. I watched it a total of 3 times.
Wow.
To prepare for this. Yeah. And now I like it. It's like cheesy schlocky,
Starship Troopers kind of.
Yeah, it's not quite on Starship Troopers level for me. I adore that film. But Total Recall, it's up a star now.
Okay.
It would have been a 2-star review from me on Letterboxd. But I think it's earned 3 stars now.
Glad to hear it.
That is the end of Act 2. I think we have earned ourselves a beverage.
Oh, hell yes.
So let's head over to Vogler Lounge and get something.
Maybe get a beer.
Regular table here at the Vogler Lounge. I think it's really cool that they allow us to bring our own beverages here without charging a corkage fee.
It's very nice.
That's pretty cool of them.
Probably because we give them so much press.
Probably true. All right, so here's our themed beverage in the secret bag.
Oh, it's clinky.
You heard a clink.
What? Delirium Red, Belgian ale with cherry and elderberry. Delirium Red, like the red planet of Mars.
That's right. In delirium a little bit, because
he's having a delusion.
Because is this real or is it not?
Belgian ale with cherry and elderberry. Wow, I can't wait to taste this.
So this is a Belgian ale. It is recommended that Belgian ales are served in this type of a tulip-shaped goblet. So I only have one of these, so you'll get this one. I'm going to use a regular pint glass.
I want to describe this bottle.
Oh, yeah.
The glass of the bottle, first of all, breaks very easily, letting all the beers
with just a single bullet.
No, so it's a reddish, almost pinkish label over an eggshell-colored bottle. It's like eggshell with like dots, like a.
I thought it was like concrete almost.
Oh, maybe. And then it's got red foil, a beautiful red foil covering the top of the bottle and the bottle cap.
It's kind of like a fuchsia.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Color.
It's beautiful. I'm going to take a picture of it right now, and then we can post it
give me the
on
other
the
one.
thing.
I can be opening it while you do what you're doing.
There you go.
Ooh, wow, that looks like...
You can see the beautiful sort of berry-colored...
It looks very berry, yes. It is
does.
a dark, brownish, purple
Yeah, there's a purpley
color.
tint to it, and it's got a very thin head.
That may have been me.
Okay.
Pouring poorly.
I'm gonna smell the bouquet here. Oh, yeah. Very berry smelling.
Can't even see through it. A lot of bubbles clinging to the side of the glass there. Carbonation.
I'm smelling it. It smells almost
It smells like raspberry juice.
Yeah, I was going to say it smells like grape Kool-Aid.
Unless this is what an elderberry smells like.
Elderberry. Well, should we drink it?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's fruit punch.
Yeah, very sweet.
That's just fruit punch.
Yeah, it is. It's a fruit punch beer.
Holy
It almost
smoke.
tastes like a cider.
Yeah, but
Like an
it's weird.
elderberry cider.
It's a Belgian ale. 8% alcohol. This is brewed by brewery Hugo in Belgium. Family Brewery is a conglomerate, I guess would be the word, of Belgian breweries that are collectively teaming up to distribute the gloriousness of Belgian beers and educate people worldwide. Just in case you were curious. That's my understanding of it anyway.
I was first introduced to Belgian beers by a waiter in France who, when I asked him, what's the best French beer, he leaned in and said, Belgian.
Not familiar with any French beers.
There is a French beer that's called 1664, 1654.
Easy for you to say.
It's basically Budweiser.
Oh, not good?
Frenchweiser. It's fine. It's
just a lager.
Yeah, it's not my kind of beer. It's
Okay.
a lager.
Okay.
This is really good.
I'm enjoying this. It's I don't taste the alcohol at all. This is sweet fruit juice.
So
Fruit punch.
I learned on a tour of the Stone Brewery that the variety of yeast is responsible for around 30% of the beer's taste. I don't know what the metric of that is, but that's like the baseline of the taste. And I have never enjoyed Belgian ales for that reason, because the yeast has this taste to it that I just don't enjoy. And I taste that undertone in this beer, but the sweetness is a good complement to it. So it's enjoyable. I'm going to drink what's the strength of this guy?
8%.
8%. Okay. That's legit.
This is an 11.2 fluid ounce bottle. So it's slightly smaller than your typical beer bottle, which is 12 ounces.
Metric system.
Or can. 12 ounce.
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
That's the standard. So this is a little bit smaller.
Quite delicious.
But yeah, this is some tasty stuff. I could see super hot day pounding one of these at the beach or something.
See, now my mind immediately went to being at the Renaissance Fair in the heat.
Oh, yeah. Well, sure, because they've got that pub tour you can do, and they recommend all the fruit ciders.
And this has been around this brewery since 1654.
Yeah, this is probably during the actual Renaissance. This is what the people... Did they have, like, Stone Age fairs during the Renaissance, I wonder? This is tasty.
Dan, as we're sitting here in the Vogler Lounge enjoying our fine Belgian ale, I wanted to use our podcast as a blatant vehicle for my own self-promotion, if that's all right with you, with your permission as my loyal co-host.
I think you asked for my permission a couple episodes ago, and I gave it.
I have a new book coming out. It's called The Lightness of Hands. It's about Ellie, who is 16, and she's the daughter of a washed-up stage magician. 10 years ago, he attempted an epic illusion on live TV and failed, and it wrecked his career.
Oh, no.
And now the two of them live in a beat-up old RV, and they tour the Midwest playing corporate gigs and birthday parties and bars, trying to make enough money to make ends meet.
Got it.
Ellie goes to high school online.
You can do that, or did you create that for the novel?
You can do that.
You can?
Yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's
I guess it's like homeschooling. But
yeah, in every state.
Okay.
Almost.
I didn't know that. See,
So-
I'm learning already. Your
See?
first book, I learned what gender fluidity was. In this book, I'm learning you can go to school online. High school. I know you can do it in college, but please continue.
Ironically, this book is not about going to high school online, but so the gigs are drying up and they are running out of money, and Ellie is running out of her medication. She deals with bipolar 2, and dad has a heart condition, and they're running out of their medications. She discovers that their insurance has lapsed. He hasn't paid the rent on the place where they parked their RV, so they are desperate. And then she gets a phone call.
This is all World of Common Day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Then she gets a phone call.
That's a lot to deal
Here's
with.
the call to adventure.
Okay.
She gets a phone call from a famous magic duo, Flynn and Keller. Wink, wink. They want Dante, her dad, to come to LA in 10 days and recreate the illusion that wrecked his career on their live retrospective, magic retrospective. She knows her dad will never do it. He's too proud. He's too embarrassed. But she says yes anyway because they're going to pay big. And then she lies to her dad to get him to head west.
Wow.
She meets...
I like it.
She pairs up with an unusual guy on the way. She has an online-only best friend who helps her out. And it's part caper, part coming-of-age story. It deals with mental health in a way we really haven't seen Bipolar 2 explored in a YA novel. And it deals in the world of magic as a kind of conversation about how we lie to each other to try to make our lives better. So I'm hosting 2 launch events. The first is at 1888 Center in Orange, down in OC, and that will be a discussion about mental health in fiction with my friend Todd Harmonson, who is the senior editor of the Orange County Register. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, so he's going to interview you about the book, or is it just a discussion about mental health in representation in fiction? Or?
Well, it's for sure going to be focused on my book, but in the context of how mental health is discussed in fiction. And then...
That sounds really cool. I
hope you
would
come.
like to go. 1888 Center in Orange.
In Orange, yeah. All
I've
the
been there.
details are on jeffgarvinbooks.com. Just click on events.
Great.
And then 2 days later, for my Los Angeles cohorts, on the 16th, I will be doing a launch event at the Bookstar / Barnes & Noble in Studio City on Ventura Boulevard.
Yeah, which is probably 5 miles from here, if that.
Yeah.
So
And that will
I'll
be...
definitely be at that.
That will be a conversation
I'll be
with...
drunk, but I'll be there.
So will I. That will be a conversation with Anna Shinoda, who is the author of Learning Not to Drown, which is a really incredible YA book that came out a couple years ago. And she is also, I forget what her title is, but she's in charge of Change Direction, a nonprofit that's all about suicide prevention. And she's in charge of the book division of that organization. She's an incredible woman, super smart, awesome mental health advocate. So I hope you guys, if you're listening and you're in Southern California, please come out to those events. I'd love to see you there.
Okay, so you said the Orange event, you know Todd Harmonson personally. Right. So that makes sense how that might have happened. How about the other one? Do you know Anna Shinoda, or was this set up by Balzer and Bray's publicists? Or
I met Anna Shinoda at a book event 2 or 3 years ago, and we struck up a conversation, and I was just so impressed with her. She is so smart and such a good communicator. And then I read her book, and it was like, oh man, we're on the same wavelength. So
cool. When
I found out she was working with Change Direction, I participated in an online conference with her, and when I knew I was going to do this launch event and I was going to talk about bipolar, which I don't know if I've mentioned on this podcast. I have bipolar 2 disorder. So part of this book comes from my experience with it. I wanted to be in conversation with someone about it, and I wanted that person to be safe and know what they were talking about. And Anna was the first person I thought of, and Todd too. He's a journalist, and he's just got so much integrity. So I'm so lucky to have these two people in my life, who I can have this conversation with.
I feel like these will be really good, insightful conversation. So the book comes out April 14th.
April 14th.
2020.
That's right.
So go to your local bookstore or pre-order it on barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Or
if you support indies and there's an indie store near you, please support indie booksellers.
Sure.
If not, Barnes & Noble. If it weren't for Barnes & Noble, there would be no book distribution backbone in the United States. Barnes & Noble has been really good to me. I love them. There are no indie bookstores in my town or anywhere near my town, so Barnes & Noble is it. And I love Barnes & Noble. I love walking through that store. So please support your local bookstore. Well, thanks for indulging me.
The Lightness of Hands, April 14th.
From Balzer and Bray HarperCollins. Available wherever fine books are sold.
Well done. Go buy it.
Yeah.
I have finished my Delirium Red.
I'm not far behind you.
So I say it's time we clear this table so that some other guests can sit here. The bartender can get next round of tips.
Let's get back to Studio
Someone
Z.
new.
Get back to work.
And let's go back to Mars.
Let's go back to
Mars, where they don't have air. Act 3 of the hero's journey begins with the road back, where the hero is pursued by the vengeful forces he disturbed when he obtained the object of his quest, when he stole the treasure.
Mm-hmm.
So Cohagen cuts off the air to the Venusville district, where all of the bars and the brothels are.
Right.
And by the way, the first time I watched this movie, I thought it was called Penisville because of what it is. It's bars and hookers. It wasn't until later that I realized he says Venusville, which also makes sense because Venus,
the goddess of love.
Goddess of love. So, all right, so that's a vengeful force. Cohagen cutting off the air. So within a matter of hours, the people of Venusville are going to suffocate.
That's right. Well, they're going to lean against buildings and huff and puff anyway. It's like that's what happens when you run out of air. You lean against buildings.
Well, you don't have energy.
I know.
You have no energy.
I know.
I will say that that scene originally they were having them gasp for air, but it looked comical.
Oh, interesting.
So they changed it so that everybody was just going to be lying listlessly up against walls.
So they thought that was comical, but not literally the dome of the glass shattering because of a single bullet. I get it.
As Quato and Quaid finish their Vulcan mind meld,
right,
Cohagen's thugs burst through the wall using these giant mining drills. It's like a tank with a big drill bit on the front.
Yes.
So they storm the rebel hideout and begin murdering the rebels. George, who is Quato's host,
right,
leads Melina and Quaid into an airlock where they are going to put on spacesuits and escape via the surface of Mars. So Benny is there, and he shoots George Quato.
Yes.
Exposing himself as a traitor, that he's actually working for Cohagen. Shapeshifter, another vengeful force. And while dying, Quato tells Quaid to start the reactor.
Right.
Richter then shows up and shoots Quato in the head.
Yes. There's a lot of there are many headshots in this film.
Headshots. Like, jeez. And then Richter abducts Quaid and Melina and takes them to Cohagen, where Cohagen reveals everything.
Yes.
Everything was planted.
If it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yeah. Like the guy with the suitcase, the message from Hauser that's on the lid of the suitcase, all that stuff was planted ahead of time.
Yeah.
They're going to throw Quaid into an implant chair and re-upload, essentially, Hauser's memories.
Right.
Which would kill Quaid.
Erase Quaid.
Basically, yeah. Basically erasing Quaid. And that's what I saw was the road back.
100% agree.
Dang! How are we doing?
Absolutely.
What?
I love this kind of scene. I love the kind of scene where the villain reveals all, because I love character. And when you have a sociopath character who's doing something not just to achieve their means, but to be recognized for having achieved their means. You know, they're the victim of never being understood, and they have to tell you, this is why I did it, and this is how I did it.
Yeah.
And it's a convention, especially in the James Bond films, in mysteries. It's the classic Murder, She Wrote or Scooby-Doo, where the villain has to tell them how they did it.
Yeah.
And it's for the benefit of the audience, but when you as a writer can justify it because of the characters and the circumstance, it's really satisfying.
Right, yeah.
And Cohagen is a power monger because he likes being right and he likes having power. So he has to show Quaid that he's right before he zaps him back.
Yeah, and he's so proud of the fact that he devised this plan that took a year to execute.
You also see this weird affection he has for Hauser.
Hauser, yeah.
Yeah, he really wants his best friend back.
Yeah, exactly. They were friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that in the 2012 version, too. Chancellor Cohagen, who's played by Bryan Cranston.
Oh, now I got to see it.
Which, connection, Blue Sky, which is what they call the meth in Breaking Bad.
Oh.
Blue Sky on Mars is the memory that's been loaded into Quaid.
Dean Norris.
Dean Norris is in Breaking Bad. It's all part of the whole thing's an illusion. We're all in recall right now.
Open your mind.
Your mind.
All right. So that takes us to Resurrection.
Your mind.
Resurrection. The hero is purified by death, either in a literal or symbolic way, and returns to the land of the living a changed person. Quaid breaks free and rescues Melina by stabbing the the linchpin of his thing. Just violent death is happening.
Yeah.
They were about.
He's just a poor scientist.
Right.
He's not an enemy combatant.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
He just stabs the guy with a giant foot-long screw
Just
in the neck.
If movies were like, if real life was like movies, like everyone who worked for Jeff Bezos would be marked for death.
Yeah. Again, this movie initially got an X rating for violence.
They're about to die. They were, like you said, they were about to be erased.
Yes.
But they have.
Melina too, because
That's right.
Cohagen says we're going to reprogram you so that you are submissive.
Yeah.
To the new Hauser.
And when he rescues her, he says, "Are you okay?" And she says, "I don't know. What do you think, dear?" She's like messing with him. Okay, so now they know the truth about Quaid and Hauser and Cohagen's plan to have Quaid lead them to Kuato. So they set out for the alien reactor, but they get ambushed by Benny, driving not a cab, but a drill tank.
Right.
Hey, Quaid! You remember me? Benny! Benny's the name!
Quaid manages to stop him with a handheld drill.
Screw you! With a drill. He's screwing it out. Brilliant.
That's the best.
Brilliant line.
That's the best Arnold line.
Screw you.
And I love these fourth wall moments. In Bond movies, they have them too, where it's like the classic lines. And Melina and Quaid make their way into the reactor. More vengeful forces here. A firefight with goons. And the use of the hologram, and another great moment. So he's using the hologram to fool the goons into thinking it's him. And then at one point, the real Quaid walks around the corner and goes, "Ha ha! You think this is the real Quaid? It is." And then shoots this. The worst line to rip.
It is so bad.
It's so bad.
But simultaneously, best ever.
So satisfying. And then Quaid defeats Richter, ripping his arms off as the lift crushes him. And see you at the party, Richter. So they finally get to the reactor, but there's
good.
Cohagen ready to stop them, and they have a fight, and the bomb goes off, and everyone starts getting sucked toward a hole in the mountain out to the surface of Mars.
Because again, a single break.
Yep. It's
causes a vacuum.
Like, it's amazing that this place has lasted as long as it has. I mean, a kid with a rock could have ended the civilization on Mars. Quaid sends Cohagen to his death and manages to start the reactor. And the ice in the core of Mars melts, releasing oxygen somehow? but
Well,
whatever.
Water is
We're buying it. Yeah, but it's just
part
they're-
oxygen.
They're hot bars that melt the ice.
They're
That does not
control
create
rods, like
oxygen.
in
Oh God.
Don't science it. Don't science it. You'll ruin it.
So the air blows Melinda and Quaid out of the pyramid and out onto the surface of Mars, where their eyes begin to pop out, just like they did in Quaid's dream.
I love the sound effects that where they're
Yeah.
both pretending to be.
Imagine Arnold in the ADR booth. Hey Arnold, just make some really Arnold sounds. So that's where I ended it.
One moment I want to highlight, and I think this might be a Verhoeven moment, although I haven't seen RoboCop in a long time, so I don't know if it's in that. And I've never seen Basic Instinct, so I don't know if it's in that. However, this is the second Verhoeven movie that we've done.
Right.
And in both, people with machine guns forming a circle and firing inward.
Yes. It's a circle.
So they all think they're shooting at Quaid,
Right.
but Quaid is a hologram, so he's not really there. So where are those bullets going? They
Yeah.
should have all killed each other dead.
It's a circular firing squad.
I don't know.
It's the Trump
I don't know.
administration.
They did it in Starship Troopers too, and I still don't understand how they didn't all kill each other. Freedom to live. The final segment of the story. The hero, having won some precious treasure or reward or turned on an alien reactor, now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of battle. The reactor has been turned on. An explosion of atmosphere happens.
Air breaks the glass now. Air.
How did people not get shredded to ribbons by all of the glass that explodes inward at people?
I think they're used to the horrible
Amazing.
glass by now.
That could be. It could be. Maybe it is a mutation of living on Mars, where your skin is thicker than that of Earthlings.
Yeah, all the people that didn't have the thick skin died because there had to be many, many glass accidents. And by the way, in the beginning, when it shoots the bullet and it closes the glass, blast doors close to seal off the building. Why not just have those so that you don't die?
Because then you wouldn't be able to look out across the beautiful red Martian landscape.
I just finished my beer. I just
How
killed
did you
it.
get that home?
What?
You brought that glass back from the Vogler Lounge? You stole that glass. I have to take it back now.
Oops.
I'm going to have to somehow explain.
Vogler Lounge needs to-go cups. Let's get that handled.
Unbelievable. So everybody has air now.
Right.
The domes that form these living and working spaces on Mars have all imploded because of the sudden blast of oxygen and atmosphere.
Right. Which is weird because
planet-wide, which all happens within about 14 seconds.
And if there's Earth atmosphere simulated inside the dome, that wouldn't happen because the glass would have to be strong enough to prevent that differential.
The air had been shut off.
Oh, you're right.
There was no.
But
there was no
the
air.
whole whatever.
Jeff, don't science it. Okay, look, the voters chose this, not the Martian. So that's basically it.
Yeah.
Mars now has a blue sky and clouds, and everybody can breathe. And Quaid has this horrible thought that what if this was all a dream?
And then he spins the top, and before it can stop spinning, we cut to black. We don't know.
That's right. And I wonder if people had the same discussion after this film was released that people had after Inception.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the internet then.
Right, so they just had to talk about it in bars.
Right.
Yeah, and not correct each other and yell at each other online.
I don't even remember that.
I remember having arguments about things, and who is that?
I wish I was an adult. I wish I had that experience in a non-internet culture.
We did.
Not as an adult.
No, but that John Cusack argument, that would have gone on for so long. And we would have had to go to a video store and
rent the movie.
Yeah.
We would have had to watch the movie and discuss. That's right. Yeah,
That's a perfect example.
We couldn't have.
So in my
looked it up on
in
the
my
phone
commitment
here.
to not sciencing it, they get sucked out into Mars. Their eyes are bulging out. The atmosphere magically appears, and they're alive. But like, the temperature differential on Mars is massive. Anyway, so they're protected somehow from extreme radiation because Mars doesn't have a magnetosphere.
No, they turned on the reactor. The whole planet was fixed in a matter of
Never
seconds.
mind reduced gravity and low temperature.
No, it is. It's all fixed. It's fine now. They
So,
turned on the reactor.
If you listen to the tidbits, I'm going to science the shit out of this movie. And
Oh,
this will be
great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It's so much fun.
Looking forward to it.
I think it is safe to say that we have totally recalled this film.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, please
Give those people air.
please head over to patreon.com/Heroes Journey and consider becoming a patron to gain access to additional audio and video content related to this and other episodes.
And thank you to everyone who supports this show by listening, telling your friends about it, subscribing, rating us on your podcast app, writing us a review on your podcast app. And we want to extend a special heartfelt thanks to our demigod patrons, John Peterson Jr., Scott Sanford, Both Boys React, and Chris Bodeker. Thank you all so much for your support.
And we have a new patron this month.
Yes!
Jimmy Tail joining the Heroes Journey
Thank you, Jimmy.
podcast family. It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, welcome.
At mentor level, you will gain access to vote on the subject of our next episode. Our next episode will feature a film directed by Catherine Bigelow, the first and only woman to ever win the Academy Award for Best Achievement in Directing. She's made some great films, so it was tough for us to select just 3 for the Patreon poll.
Yeah.
If you are a mentor level patron like Jimmy,
Mentor or above.
you may vote for one of the following 3 films. Option 1, Point Break from 1991, starring Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves. Dan, this movie shares some elements with The Fast and the Furious. So if the patrons vote for this, will you shut up about The Fast and the Furious?
What? No!
I mean, they're basically the same movie. So
Only Fast and the Furious has Paul Walker. Shut your pie hole. Option 2, 1995's Strange Days, a cyberpunk film about a former cop turned street hustler who accidentally uncovers a conspiracy.
And option 3 is The Hurt Locker, starring Jeremy Renner as an army bomb disposal specialist with, shall we say, unorthodox methods.
I would love to cover any of those, but of the 3, I've only ever seen The Hurt Locker.
In this episode, we sampled Delirium Red, Belgian ale with cherry and elderberry from family brewer Hugie? It's the family brewery. Total Recall is copyright 1990, Carol Co. Pictures. The short story, We Will Remember It For You Wholesale, is copyright 1987, the estate of Philip K. Dick.
This episode is scheduled for release at the end of March 2020, so I just want to say again, a couple of weeks ahead of the release of Jeff's new book, The Likeness of Hands, released April 14th, 2020. Please check out your local bookstore. And if you want to attend one of the events Jeff mentioned, check out jeffgarvinbooks.com for details.
How about you, Dan? When is your new book coming out?
I don't have a new book.
New album, maybe? Your banjo, kazoo, duet
No.
record? No?
No.
Paint a picture?
Nothing.
Nope. You have a good hair day.
Yeah.
I like your green eyes.
Until next time.
Journey on.
Yeah.
This is good. The air.
Yeah.
Give them air.
Consider this a divorce.